Right. So this is what generally SQL is all about. SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language.
Mhm.
It's a kind of query language, as I told you, because there are different languages within the field of IT, like something like markup languages, which explains you about the markup process, like to create front pages, all that. At the same time, we have a programming language even. So programming languages are will be used to write programs and all everything. At
Yes.
the same time, we have even
Modeling.
a modeling language where we create different models and all everything, followed by this query languages. So query languages are the one which will be majorly used to structure the query, because when there is an application taken place or in any of the organization you see, they want to
Mm.
maintain their customer records. Either it could be a banking and financial institution, or it could be something relating to the retail part, or it could be healthcare, maintaining the healthcare data, healthcare information of the customers of the healthcare organization, or it could be of anything. Usually, maintaining the data, extracting the data is essentially important, especially in connect to the role of a data analyst now, because yesterday you have asked me the same, right? So I think you are into business analysis or analytics, right? So that's what you said. So
Yeah.
as a part of business analysis and analytics, wherein we need to work on some data, because there are two kind of analysis we have. Analysis where people working on the requirements, because we understand the requirements of the customer and whatever the possible solutions in connect to the business solutions, what they are going to provide is one kind of role. The other role is called analytics, data analytics, business analytics, different names we have. Depends on
Mm.
the industry to industry, whatever the role they will be mentioned will be as such. So at is as such, right? So this is what generally data will be. So people who are working on data is called data analyst or data analyst or data analytics, whatever it is, names it could be. So these people works on data where they have to make some concrete decisions out of it. That is the intention behind that. Because unless until if you are not able in a position to take a decision, right? So because taking business decisions accurately is essentially important. If you
Mhm.
want to take any kind of accurate decisions, there is some data which is required for us, and there is a scientific approach of finalizing something which is essentially needed, because we cannot take the decision simply, right? So we have to take a decision based on some set of standards which are essentially important. So there is some data is required. There is a systematic approach of data to be done. So for that, there are different tools like Python, R programming, all these will be used to do that. But for all that, before people knowing about all this, there is a basic understanding over data followed by the insertion of data, because unless until if you don't insert the data, unless until if you don't update the data, unless until if you don't query the data, analytics would be difficult, right? So whoever is learning either business analytics or people who are learning business data analyst or data analytics, all that, one should have a clear and as less concrete understanding over SQL, which is essentially important, which is the basic criteria for any business, any job. Okay,
Mhm.
nowadays. So for that reason, generally structured query languages are being used. In this structured query languages, the first thing is about what exactly SQL is all about. We have discussed in the previous session, and how
Mhm.
and where it is being used, and what are the different tools we use, like SQL Workbench and all everything is being used to work on SQL, because you need to have a data sets. This is how usually the data sets will be. Let me show you. Right, so there is some data is required, because if you want to insert some data, or if you want to extract some data, or if you want to update some data, or if you want to provide us some kind of inputs to be provided to that, right? For everything, there is a data which is required. So
Mhm.
this data in this data analysis or in this SQL part is called data sets. Okay, please write up. Please write up.
Okay.
Please write up. Please make a notes. I think I'll give some notes to you in between so that possible you can write.
Okay.
SQL is a structured query language. Please write up. SQL is a structured query language which will be used to update, extract, manage the data, which was located in database management system, because database can be anything, because there are a couple of databases we have, like Oracle database we use sometimes. At the same time, sometimes we use SQL, MySQL. Sometimes it may be a Word database which is called MS Access. Right? So these are all the examples for that. Right? So different databases where you want to insert the data, we have to update the data. Right? So for all these things, generally to retrieve the data, to manage all this data, there are some commands to be given. So there are some commands we have to provide. Unless until if you are not providing any kind of commands to that, it won't be possible. Right? So this is what generally SQL is all about. So for that, normally you require for this to work on SQL, please write down. For this to work on SQL, we require some data sets. To understand how this must insert, because for example, in an organization, there is a data of customers are available. First of all, we should know how to insert the data, right? Insert the data is required. At the same time, if there are any changes happens in between, we have to update it, right? If something is not something required for us, we have to delete that, right? So or else merging, right? So these are all different things. So for that, what is required? There are some data sets which are required. So here I can show you. There are some different data sets which I have taken here. Like for example, salaries related, right? So salaries related year I have taken here. I have taken in year. At the same time, experience level is the second column. The kind of employment type, what they have and all everything is mentioned here. At the same time, here we have given the job title, whatever the job title they have and all everything was given. Now here we have mentioned the salary, right? So salary in terms of the currencies, right? So all that I have given here. At the same time, so at the same time, employee residence, right? So US, right? So at the same time, Europe, right? So employee residence was given. So followed by this, the company size, all that stuff, right? So this is how usually different data sets we have to use to structure something. This is for salaries. At the same time, we have different data set, even for examination, right? So examination, whatever the kind of marks they have scored, right? So all these things comes under this. At the same time, if you want to have a data relating to gender submissions and all will be there. So any one data set will be taken here, right? So here this is for about furniture part. So we will be taking these data sets and all, where these data sets has to be uploaded in the SQL workbench. So based on that, whatever the select update queries and all everything has to be done here subsequently, right? Understood?
So the data will be given to us in this form.
The Excel sheets. Usually this is all Excel sheets, right? Because data will be in a form of CSV files, right? So CSV and Excel files it will be. Because there will be large number of data, right? For example, if you take table, right? So furniture price predictions and all. So this is the table. The table number almost 2001, right? So 2001, different types of furniture and all everything are available. Understood, right? So what data is available on CSV file in an Excel file .csv file. It is available with us everywhere, right? What we can do, because even if you see for data visualization purpose also, because data visualization means using Tableau or Power BI, even for that also data set is required, isn't it? Right? So either if you want to work on SQL, which is relating for a data is required for you, or else if you are working on data visualization part using Power BI and all that stuff, end of the day, data is needed. Unless until if you don't have a data which is available with you, we can't do anything, right? So because if there is a data is available, so that how to insert it, right? How to update, how to modify, everything can be done by us, right? Without data, you can't do anything. But to have a data, usually the data will be available in CSV format. This Excel format, in that CSV format, usually data is available everywhere. So even in real world, usually this data will be given to us. So where we are exporting this data is our choice. Because if you want to write queries for SQL and all, we use in SQL we use it. Or else if this you want to go for data visualization purpose using either it could be Power BI or it could be Tableau or something like. So if you want it, we can use there. So any one we use it. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Clear, right? So these are the data sets. Whatever are we talking about, these are the data sets which I am talking about. So there are different data sets which are available online even, right? We don't need to worry because I'll give you these data sets before we are going to start the practicals. Of course, from the next week onwards, we'll start workbench and all that. So before that, as in when you are a new beginner, let me explain you about the fundamentals first. Because unless until if you're not strong in fundamentals, then it won't be easy,
Yeah.
right? Because fundamentals are very important.
Yes,
Because we
exactly.
cannot straight away jump into SQL part. Because
Yes.
people may come from different streams, right? So some people come from IT, some people come from non-IT and all, right? So they have to know right from the ABC part, right? So what is data set, right? What is data, right? Where and what format data must be available. All these things must be known to them. Then only work progress and all everything will become much easier to them, right? So that's what one has to understand. That is what one should know, right? So this is what is especially important when you are working on. So these are the data sets which are essentially required when we are to work on it. Is it clear, Abhijit? Right?
Yes,
So
sir.
this is what it is. Now, coming back to this data part, as I've explained you, I think I have prepared some Word document, right? I have opened it. Yeah, just give me a minute. I think I have a document I have taken. Yeah, so I think this is the document we have opened. Yeah, so these are all the information which I have given yesterday. So one is about the markup language, right? So this is the first one. Markup language is the first one. And second is about the programming language, which was discussed with you. At the same time, I have discussed even about the modeling language. Last but not least, whatever is the importance is called query language,
Query
right?
language.
So query language, these are the things. Now, if you want to use this SQL commands, there are four different types, right? So because these are all four different types will be there. These query languages and all everything will be incorporated as well as divided into four different parts. One is DDL. You can write down, or else I'll forward this document to you. Either of your choice. Right. So
Okay.
because if you want to write down the notes, you can write down. Otherwise, if you want me send me this Word document, I'll forward. That is your choice. Okay. One is DDL. Second, we call it as DML. Third, we call it as DQL. Fourth, we call it as DCL. Okay. DDL, DML, TQL, followed by DCL. Okay. So, whereas DDL stands for Data Definition Language. DDL stands for Data Definition Language. Right. So because whatever the definitions do we require to provide for a particular respective data, for this data definition language is being used. Point number one. Point number two,
Data
DML,
modeling
right?
language.
So data DML, right? So we can call it as DML stands for data manipulation language.
Manipulation.
Call it as data manipulation language. This is point number two. Next, we call it as DQL.
Query language.
DQL is called data query language because most of the work being in SQL related stuff, everything will be done using this. This is what generally we call it as data query languages because in these query languages and all, whatever the commands relating to select commands, right? So all these things comes under this DCL part. This is what generally DCL, which is called data query language. Okay. Next, fourth one we call it as DCL, which is called
Control language.
data control language. This is what we call it as data control language, right? So these are the four different types of data which is available in reference to the commands, whatever we have to use. Because data we take, first point, from different data sets and all data will be taken. But data itself, whatever is taken is not sufficient. What else we have to do? Whatever the data we have to take, that has to be updated, that has to be edited, all these things. For that, there are different commands to be used. If you want to use those commands and all, these commands and all, everything will falls under these four categories. One is definition language as separate category, first category. Manipulation is the second category. Query is the third category. Followed by this control language is the fourth category. Right? So this is how usually this will be divided. Now, when we talk about data definition language, if you talk about DDL, we have different commands for different things. One is for create, and second is for alter. Next is for comment. At the same time, next is for draw. Next is for truncate. Next is for rename. Okay, I'll tell you, you can write. Right, so we have these commands usually available under DDL. So, right, so sorry, it's not true. Sorry, yeah. Right, so these are the four different, these are the few commands which normally we use under DDL. One is about create, second is for alter, third is for comment, draw, truncate, and rename. Now, try down for create. How to create table is what we do here. Right now. How to create tables.
Yes.
Right? How to create tables under the first one, which is the first command. If you want to create any kind of tables for a data, what we have taken. As I told you again, I'm repeating, there is a data set which is required. If you want to do all that, there is a data which must be needed for us. Without having a data, we can't do anything. So once we have a data, the very first thing is that we have to create some tables for that. So for this, the first command, what is that we use called create. How to create tables is the first part. Second is what we call it as alter, right? So how to alter the table. For example, if you want to make some alterations to the existing table, what you have taken, because you cannot expect in real world, the data will be a structured data. Because data will be two different types. One is structured data, second is unstructured data. Understood, right? First is structured data, second is unstructured data. Structured data means the information, whatever is required with you, or the information, whatever you have received, it will be structured format, right? Everything will be like this, right? So because, for example, this is the information which was structured, right? So all the information was structured. So information was given in detail for us so that we have a better understanding. Sometimes there will be a data which is unstructured, right? So because they're raw data, I can say unstructured means raw data we can call it as. Sometimes if there is any kind of raw data which is available for us to work with, so it depends on the kind of requirement or depends on the kind of analysis we want to make out of it. We want to make some alterations out of it, isn't it? Right? So we have to make some alterations. So for that, generally the kind of command, what is that we are going to use is called alter. So alter is a command which will be used to alter the table. Means whatever the table we have, whatever the table we have created so far, if you want to make any kind of alterations to the existing ones, the kind of command, what is that we are going to use called alter. Understood? Clear?
Yes.
Right? Now, the third one is called comment. How to put comments in the table. This is what we call it as comment command stands for. Right? Because if you want to put any kind of comments to the existing table itself, wherein the kind of command, what is that we are going to use called comment. Right? So create is for creation of table. Alter is to alter the table. Or at the same time, if you want to write some comments, right? So for that table, whatever the data we have taken, there are some recommendations we want to provide. Right? Some recommendations to be provided. Or else we want to provide some comments to the existing ones, some basic comments, because data will be used by multiple people in the organization, isn't it? Right? So a couple of people are using. And each and everybody using this data for different purposes and reasons, because you cannot say that everybody is using this information for the same purposes, which is not possible even. So we have to structureize this data, depends on the requirement, what we have and all that stuff. So for that, we have to put some comments in the table, which is essentially required. So for that, comment is what generally we use it, right? Next point number 3. Next is drop, right? So this is a command which is explains us about how to drop the table. How to drop the table, because if you want to drop the table in between, because assume that this table is not something important as we feel. Right? For example, we see that this information is not something required for us, right? So this table is not something important as we see. If you want to drop the table in between for whatsoever reason, based upon the decisions what we have taken, if you want to drop the table and always we have a choice where we can use an option called drop. So drop is a command which will be used to drop the table when and wherever it is needed, right? So this is what generally drop command will be used for. The next was truncate, right? So truncate is all about. So this is to how to write it. Truncate the values in the table. How to truncate the values, because if you want to truncate any kind of values, because different values are there in the tables, right? So
What
that's
is
for
the
example,
actual
if you
meaning
can
of truncate?
means truncate means if you want to how I can say if you want to merge it's a kind of merging, I can say. It's a kind of
Oh,
merging of the
merging.
information, right? Because it's not exactly the merging part, because merging of rows and all everything will be there, but not exactly merging. I can say that truncate the values means if you want to alter the values, or if you want to define the values for different reasons and all, generally this truncate is what generally is being used, because the data whatever will be taken, so the data will have different these things, right? So data will be having different values and all that, right? So whenever we want to use this data, what is that we are going to use whenever we are working on the data and all that. So we want to truncate this data, what we have, the values and all that. For example, if you want to or we want to truncate this information based on the length, or based on the based on the letter format, what we are using and all everything, right? So, or else if you want to trim the data, right? So because there are different values, and values will be sometimes value will be something very large, like for example 23.00000, right? Or else 23569.00156, right? This is what the value is. Understood? Okay, right? This is what the value. What you want to do now, you want to trim the value, because that value, whatever the number you have seen, is what 23569.234, for example, right? This is the data. 0.2 means that will be comes under the first number. Okay. If for example, if any number which is more than 0.5, even from starting from 0.5, what is that you do? For example, 23.5. How do you spell that? How do you spell 23.5?
23. We cannot do that.
No. How do you spell? For example, when there is a data is available. For example, 24.0. How do you spell that? Will you spell this as 24 or not?
Yeah, 24.
24.0 is called as 24. Agreed? Right. Now, for example, 24.2 I have given. 24.2 itself is also considered as 24.
Yes.
Right. But now, if I have given a value called 24.5 or 24.6, more than 0.5, it is considered as the next number. 24.5 means it is considered as 25. The next number will come. Understood? Right?
Yes.
So you want to truncate the value. Means if you want to trim the value, what is that we have given? So that if you want to trim the value, there is an option which is called truncate, because values are large in number, because data will also be larger for us. At the same time, data will also be large in terms of the percentage, isn't it? Right? Data will also be larger in percentage. So what is that we have to do now? We have to truncate the values, because value system is very hard. For example, you have taken this value. Let's say, for example, salary is what we have taken, right? So this is where somewhere around 80,000 euros, right? So that is what the value we have given, right? So for example, euro is the value we have taken. So this euro 80,000 can be converted into US dollars, right? That is one way of doing it. Or else you can convert into Indian rupees, or you can convert this into Singapore dollar, right? So if you want to have the conversation. So will you get the same number, right? 80,000 is euro dollars, right?
Yeah.
So when you are converting 80,000 into euro dollars, for example, from to US dollars, you are converting. Based upon the US currency value, this will be converted. This will not be the exact figure, right? So maybe 23,000, maybe for example, 23,000 or 1,20,000, whatever the number, 0.001 or 0.56, right? Something like you get like this. So the number will be very large. So whatever the values do we have, if you want to trim the value system, values and all everything, this truncate is being used for. Understood? Clearly? Okay. Right. Understood or not? Right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Right. So how to truncate the values in the table is what generally we use. The next is about rename. How to rename the tables. For example, you want to rename the tables. What are the tables you have taken down, wherein you want to rename that? So always we have a choice where how we have to rename the tables here. So these are the different commands which normally we use under DDL, which is called data definition language. So data definition language is the first one, where in this way we have different tables, where we have an option for create, where how to create a table is required. Point number 2, how to alter the table, how to comment, how to drop, how to truncate, at the same time, how to rename. Right? So this is what it is. Clear away? Right?
Yes, sir.
Now we'll join in another 5 to maximum 10 minutes of time, and we'll continue about DML, DQL, and DC. Okay?
Okay, sir.
I am logging off. You can join after 5-10 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.